Well, government has announced that a new minimum wage will come into effect as of the 1st of March this year. The change is expected to impact a wide range of industries, and employers are also urged to familiarize themselves with the new regulations in order to ensure compliance. Now, the new minimum wage has been set at 28 Rand 79 cents per hour, an increase from the previous rate of 27 Rand 58 cents. Now, this adjustment is actually part of government's ongoing efforts to address income inequality and to ensure that all workers receive a fair wage. For this discussion, we've roped in Managing Director at Strata-g Labour Solutions, Adv Tertius Wessels, to help us understand and also unpack this particular increase. Advocate Wessels, great to have you with us. Good afternoon. So firstly, how will the 4.4% increase in the national minimum wage actually impact businesses, particularly those small as well as medium enterprises?
Good afternoon, Alicia, and good afternoon to the viewers. Yeah, I think this increase of 4.4% on the national minimum wage, which is set to be effective from the 1st of March 2025, will undoubtedly have an impact on both employers and employees. Many employees, labour federations see this increase as minimal and almost as insignificant. But ultimately, there's also many small employers out there that really see this as something that's going to impact on their ability to remain operationally or financially sustainable. So what we need to understand is that employers have a duty, and especially because this announcement comes almost a month just before it kicks in, to really understand what are their operational expenditures, what is their current payroll cost, and how is this increase then going to impact on their operations as such. And it's also important for the employers to ensure that they are educating their employees on this increase so that there is awareness about the adjustment that's going to take place. This is especially so because this increase of the 4.4% really only applies to those employees that are currently earning the minimum wage, and many employees that earn above this national minimum wage are not automatically entitled to receive a 4.4% increase. And unless there's open communication between employer and employees, there might be an expectation of increase amongst other employees. And if they do not receive that, that could potentially lead to disputes about mutual interest, and it could cause labour unrest, which again has the ability to adversely affect the employer, especially smaller businesses. So it's important for the employers to be engaging with their employees so that they know what to expect.
Very interesting that you point out that some sectors don't actually have to be part of this minimum wage increment, Advocate. So are you able to maybe name those industries or sectors that will actually be excluded from, of course, implementing this new tabled minimum wage?
Yeah, so there's a variety of industries and sectors within South Africa, and many of those have their own either sectorial determination or there's bargaining councils that regulate what the minimum wages are applicable in those industries and sectors. But what we find with the National Minimum Wage Act specifically is that certain sectors like or extended public works programs and learnerships are often exempt from having to comply with the provisions of the National Minimum Wage Act, and as far as that those sectors can pay a lesser wage. And the real idea behind that is ultimately to encourage businesses to employ those that would otherwise still remain unemployed in those industries and sectors. And it ultimately also encourages employers to afford the employees then the opportunity not just to only earn a wage, but also gain valuable skills and experience that could ultimately make them more employable at the end of those particular programs.
Very key to note as well. I'm sure you saw, Advocate, there was quite a lot of confusion with some employees when they actually, during the COVID pandemic, when some employees actually went to go and ask for their UIF benefits only to find out that their employers were actually not even contributing to this particular fund. But what are some of the key challenges, Advocate, in ensuring compliance? Because this is a huge one. Compliance within the sector, with the new minimum wage, especially in sectors with historically low wages. I'm talking your domestic workers, your gardeners, or basically informal employees.
Yeah, compliance has always been an issue. You know, we have historically now seen over the last couple of months that the Department of Employment and Labour would embark upon these blitz inspections where they focus on specific industries like the hospitality sector, and then do blitz raids on various restaurants in order to ensure compliance. But a national minimum wage is a wage that now is applicable to every single person across South Africa. And we cannot underestimate how many people are actually employed in informal environments, in outlying areas. You know, how many households, as you mentioned, might have domestic workers or gardeners in their employees, au pairs, etc. And unless, number one, we focus on awareness, we focus on educating people, employees are not necessarily going to know what is the rate that they are entitled to receive for every hour that they work. Employers might not even know that they are required to pay a certain rate, because as the cost of living increases, many people are focusing on doing away with your DSTV descriptions, you know, focusing on the bare necessities, just to ensure that they can survive on a day-to-day basis. And unless the Department of Employment and Labour is going to come up with new ideas or innovative ways of ensuring compliance, we will always have a situation where the most vulnerable will still suffer and not benefit from these initiatives that are implemented.
Very quick one, Advocate, before I let you go. You know, when you make reference of that, that sometimes it's even the employers that don't know how much they're supposed to pay. Somebody had posted on social media, if I'm now earning 7,500 Rand and I have to pay my domestic worker 3,500 Rand, how am I going to survive? But very quickly, Advocate, what legal consequences then do those employers face if they do fail to comply with the new minimum wage regulations?
I think the two first things that come to mind is, number one, employers run the risk of their employees taking them to the CCMA, bringing an application for failure to pay the national minimum wage, and that could lead to an adverse arbitration award against the employer, which could result into back pay. And depending on the number of employees you employ, that could be astronomical. There's also the possibility of fines being imposed on employers for their failure to comply.
Advocate, great having you with us on the show. Thank you so much.